There's a central recurrent idea that runs through much of psychotherapy and coaching. If you don't know where you're going, you're unlikely to get there. Not many people wake up one day and discover that they're successful or in a great relationship or deeply fulfilled, and it was all by accident. There's always some chance involved, and we all discover things along the way that we might not have anticipated. But planning and setting goals is a big part of the mix. I think this is true for anybody. You might be a big planner who tries to map out every step of your life and then write your own eulogy. Or you might just look a few steps down the road and say, hey, what courses do I need to take in order to finish this degree? Either way, you're using goal setting. We don't want to spend our entire lives focused on the future, but if we never look ahead, we're going to spend a lot of time bumping into walls. If you're discouraged about your life, or if you're clinically depressed, I think it's even more important. In depression treatment, we call it behavioral activation, but it's essentially goal setting with a few bells and whistles attached. Most of our forward movement in life is governed by our own actions. We need to take a step. Goal setting tells us which direction to move. I'm going to do a few posts on goal setting, and there are a couple of essential bits that people can miss out on if they're not thinking about it directly. But in this one, I'm going to give what I think is the single most important distinction in the entire process. There are two types of goals: ultimate and immediate. Immediate goals are short-term. Gas up the car, make lunch, respond to that email. I'll focus on these in upcoming posts. Ultimate goals define the destinations we're heading for. They are the compass settings of our lives. Why are we gassing up the car? Because we want to go somewhere. Where? When I suggest to clients that they write down their ultimate goals, they often say, like what? You mean get over my public speaking anxiety or travel to Morocco? And I say, yes, whatever you want. If in doubt, go broader. Now, some of what they come up with, we might tackle in therapy. Others, we won't. What am I, a travel agent? But we need some nominees before we get started. Now, all this can seem a bit vague, so let me offer you 12 rules for generating your ultimate goals. 1. Dedicate the time. Don't just have it in the back of your mind. Define a period of time, maybe 20 minutes. Turn off the TV, get rid of the distractions, and for that period, ask yourself, what do you want in your life? If you think of something that needs doing, oh, I have to pick up the groceries later, make a note of it and get back on track. 2. Write them down. There's no point in coming up with 10 or 20 ultimate goals if you don't record them. A day later, you'll have forgotten half of them. So don't bother doing this if you do not have a pen in your hand. I know, you'd rather do it on your phone. Fine. But I do think physically writing down your goals is more effective. 3. Keep the list around. If you spend a time contemplating your goals, you'll have, in a sense, stirred up the muck at the bottom of your brain. For the next few days, new goals will start popping into your head. So for the next 3 days, keep the list with you, or at least have something you can write new items on. Do not rely on your memory. Write it down as soon as you think of it. 4. It's not in blood. People sometimes think of something and think, oh, do I really want that? Skydiving. Really? Don't worry about it. You thought of it, write it down. You are not committing yourself to anything. That's for later. 5. Generating and deciding are different steps. If you're running a book contest, you don't try to find your winner or even your short list right away. You start by generating a long list, maybe 100 books. After you've done that, you start sifting. At first, you want all of your brain power dedicated to generating nominees. Do not get distracted by, is this one more important than that one? Irrelevant for now. 6, be stupid. If you get 5 items into the list and you don't have anything that's a bit out there, try to loosen up a bit. Found a nudist colony, move to Siberia, open a macrame business. If you're too conservative in this stage, you'll restrict your range. You're not saying, this is my path. You're saying, these are some possible paths that might be open to me. 7, trivial is fine. It's tempting to approach this with great expectations. You're going to have one big idea, your life's true purpose. Let go of that. It'll constipate you. You might think, get that bathroom cleaned up. Great. Write it down. Don't get stuck worrying about some kind of threshold. This is significant enough, that isn't. Write it all down. 8, do it in reverse. If you get stuck and can't think of what you want, ask yourself if there's anything in your life that you don't like or don't want. I don't like being in debt. Great, right? Become debt-free. That's a good goal, even if you're not sure how that would ever happen. Turning problems into goals is the easiest step in all of goal setting. I'm friendless. Have friends. I'm unemployed. Have a job. Easy, easy, easy. 9, how is not for now. You may think of things and then wonder, how would I ever do that? Maybe it's impossible. Doesn't matter, right? Don't get stuck wondering if these goals are practical. Worry about how later. You'll almost certainly come up with some goals that you will never reach. Everyone has those. 10, repeat the question. Ask yourself, what do I want? Imagine you're dropping that question into a deep well. Maybe you'll only get a big echoing silence back for a while. Eventually, something will come. Write it down. Then ask the same question again. What do I want? You may get a different answer. Write that down. Sometimes people notice that it's like going through the layers of an onion. First they come up with repair the dent in the car. Later they get run for political office. 11, look from outside. You can get some ideas by asking, what do I want? But you may eventually run dry. Open it up by looking at yourself from the outside. If you were your own best friend, what would you see? What would you recommend? Now, one strategy is to imagine writing the eulogy that you would like to hear at your own funeral. They describe everything you did, how you were, what you used your life for. What do you want to hear? 12, vague is okay. You don't need to define the finish line with razor-sharp clarity. Learn Spanish is fine. If you can add to it, great. Learn Spanish well enough to be a United Nations interpreter. But don't get too stuck on that. You need that clarity for immediate goals, but not necessarily for ultimate goals. So terrific. Do this and you should have some possible destinations in mind. In coming posts, I'll describe how people turn these into actual plans of action. But first, I want to list the various realms in which people set their goals. You may discover that you've missed a couple when you generated ideas for yourself. So, see you next time. These videos come out once a week. If you're interested, click subscribe, and the latest ones will appear in your subscriptions feed when you visit YouTube. For links to my books, look in the text section below this video. And do ask questions or comment. I read all the comments and may use some of them as the basis for new videos.